Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Darcy Scott here with another music review. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be looking at Live Injection by the Selector. This is recorded live at the Old Trout. This CD came out in '96. The recording is on the back here. Recorded live at the Old Trout Windsor, UK, 19th of November 1994. This is definitely, I'm pretty sure, like a very gray area bootleg kind of official release. This one was on Magnum America Inc. Probably the reason why I think it's one of those gray area releases is because it's very difficult to find information about this online. Aside from it exists, it's traded ownership a few times. I think I saw one version on Moonska. There's even a version with like a different cover. This seems to be the most common cover, but there's a few different ones as well. So I think it's kind of one of those like, oh, maybe it's real. It also starts with like a very obvious recording noise starting, like a bzzzt, which I think if it was an official release wouldn't happen. Anyway, here we go. Show off the back as well. It's not that it's very exciting, but there you go. So like I said, came out originally in '96, recorded in '94. So who are the Selector? Generally speaking, if you're not sure, they're kind of one of the big stalwarts of the two-tone ska genre. So along with like the Specials and the Body Snatchers and Madness, they're kind of up there. Too Much Pressure was their big album. They had one album after that, and then they sort of faded away. And this album, which is really cool, was recorded when they sort of did a reunion. They put in an album '94, and this is to promote that, and they play a couple tracks from it. One of which is one of my favorites on the album, and I'll go through track by track. So in the band, again, the Selector, kind of a rotating cast sort of band, if you look at who has been in the band over time. So it's a four-piece. This time you have Pauline Black on vocals, of course. You have to. Nick Welsh on bass, Martin Stewart on keys, and Gaps Hendrickson on backing vocals. So obviously you do have, drums and guitar in there as well, but for all intents and purposes, those are, touring musicians, session musicians. In fact, if we open it up, pull out the little pamphlet here, you do get a couple of pictures of the band. So there's Pauline, there's the venue there. It's kind of a smaller capacity venue. Here's the band playing again. A little note from one of the engineers, kind of explaining the recording process. And overall, yeah, it's pretty good album. The sound quality, considering it is potentially possibly one of those gray area bootlegs, it sounds really good. It sounds like it was from the mixer. The crowd noise is perfect level. You can hear people singing along, but not too much. There's the band itself has a good level of crowd interaction between sets, which I like. I don't like live albums when there's like, a lot, and you're not really feeling like you're there, but you're getting your time taken up by jibber jabber. But I also don't like those live albums where it sounds like a studio album just with some cheering cropped in. So what do you get on this album? For the most part, it's 14 tracks, just under an hour. You get 3 tracks from their '94 album, and then the rest are all from their first album. Nothing, as far as I remember, from their second album, which is more of, I could see why, that's much more of like a poppy new wave album, which is a direction some of those two-tone bands went. So they do more of their traditional two-tone ska from the first album, and then the new album is a lot darker sounding. So you get 3 Minute Hero, which is again one of their big hits from the first album. California Screaming, which is a new song, and it fits right in. Could have been from their first album. It's pretty good. Every Day, which is again one of their old ones. I Want Justice, which is a cover, I think a Delroy Wilson cover. Pretty sure it's a Delroy Wilson song. It's a good cover. I like it a lot. Missing Words from their first album. Neurotica, which is from their new album. And actually the 3 tracks on here from the new album I had never heard, but I do really like California Screaming. I do really like Neurotica, so I might have to check that out later. Then you get the Selector, James Bond, and then you get a cover of Train to Skaville. And then you get their other big hits, On My Radio and Too Much Pressure. Those are, as we all know, kind of 2 of their biggest hits. And then they do a little intermission, a little break, and then they play Murder, My Sweet Collie, and Madness, which again is another cover. So generally speaking, it's an hour long. I think if you're a fan of Madness, but you only really need their first album, and I think that's true for a lot of sort of ska fans in general. A lot of these two-tone bands, they had one or two big albums, and then as you know, the late '70s moved into the '80s, trends changed, right? That look to combine kind of that UK pop and rock with that Trojan ska and that punk attitude started to fade away. I think you saw punk take on more of a hardcore and more of an edgy attitude, and then you also saw kind of the movement towards things like new wave and a lot of electronics being involved with live music performance, and a lot of these bands tried to kind of carry on in that way. So a lot of their sounds change, or they sort of lose something in that process. So I do think if you're a Selector fan and you only ever had their first album, great. Maybe you want more, maybe you don't. But this would be a great addition. I found this in a used bin at a local record store. I've looked online. It's easy to find, but prices can vary. I've seen it for like $5-10. I've seen it for one listing I saw 100. Don't pay $100 for this, but I've seen a few for like 20-30. So it's up to you to decide how much you love it. But I would recommend this, I think, if you're a fan of the band or two-tone in general and you want to hear some more with a couple new tracks that maybe you'll go check out like I will. Highly recommend the Selector Live Injection, recorded live at the Old Trout in '94. Shorter review today, but hope you enjoyed it. Catch you next time. Bye.